With this video, I'm going to walk you through how a pacemaker cell works, and specifically how an action potential in a pacemaker cell works. So as you recall from the readings and from the other videos, a pacemaker cell has 3 phases to its action potential. So we've got this first phase, which is drift, followed by depolarization and repolarization, and then we do drift. And I got to have a dotted line here because that's where threshold is at. So we've got drift, which is caused by sodium influx. We've got depolarization, which is caused by calcium influx. And then we've got repolarization. And remember, I've told you several times that anytime you hear repolarization in my class, know that it's caused by potassium efflux or potassium leaving the cell. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Now, what we want to talk about is how does the autonomic nervous system, specifically the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system, affect the pacemaker cells? And the answer is it all has to do with the drift. And so what we're going to do here is with the sympathetic nervous system, we're going to increase the slope of the drift. Okay, and so what happens is everything else stays the same, but the drift gets more steep. Okay, and so as a result, we hit threshold sooner. Now, I'm not going to draw out the whole pacemaker cell action potential just because I don't want to go over all the writing, but you can see that we hit the drift, or we hit the threshold at a much shorter period of time. Whereas if we did it with just regular, without any input from the sympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system, notice it takes much longer. Okay, and so the sympathetic nervous system, it's going to increase heart rate, and what it does in order to have this occur is that we actually open up more sodium channels. So we increase sodium permeability, so that allows for more sodium influx. Okay, and so on the other side, we've got the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, and again, this will only affect drift, and so we're going to decrease the slope of the drift. Okay. And so that will look something like this, and we're going to be really exaggerated here. Okay, and so notice that the time to hit threshold from when drift starts until we hit threshold is much longer. So we have a much greater period of time. Now, there's a couple ways that this can happen, and some of you might be thinking, well, if sodium is causing the drift, well, then we're just going to close sodium channels, which will make the slope less steep, which will make it so that we take a longer period of time to get there. That's true, but really the main thing is that we open up potassium channels. Okay, this allows for more potassium efflux, which will decrease the slope of the drift, and then this will ultimately lead to a slower heart rate. Okay, as you're sitting here watching this video, your heart rate's probably relatively slow, and this is because you've got a high level of parasympathetic activity going on, which will keep your heart rate relatively low. Now, whereas if you start to go for a run, you're going to shift more to the sympathetic side, and what happens with the sympathetic side is that your heart rate increases. So when you exercise or you see a bear or whatever, that's what's going to be causing that increase in heart rate so that you can deliver more blood, which means you're delivering more oxygen to your active tissues. And so this is the difference, or this is the effect of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system on a pacemaker action potential.